What in the heck? I thought he said he was done with Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. This isn't right. He shouldn't be in the game. I thought he laid this down over a week ago. And welcome back. This is your man, Warrior. That's right. The game is directly behind me. And yes, I am in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. I'm on my emulator. I do have one last roster review. So Dune Climber, it's kind of bittersweet. It's like good and bad, right? You know, you get to be the absolute last roster review, but I figured as I go out of doing roster reviews, you get to be the last video for Star Wars Galaxy Heroes on my channel. So I figured, why not do a live stream and why not put it on my main account? I figured that would be fun, and I'm off today. So instead of putting it on my roster review channel, that we would just have fun and analyze his roster together. That would be fun. He also was patient and has waited for quite a while, as is everybody. Everybody who did roster reviews had to wait quite a while. Now, he has a lot of questions about his roster, as does everybody. And so first off, shout out to Sigma Alliance Row. What's up, bros? Ro. Dune Climber joined Patreon a few months back. He's still in my Patreon. And for the record, just like when a baseball player or a football player retire, they don't just instantly don't know anything. They obviously have a wealth of knowledge. They continue on. In fact, most of them, a lot of them kind of use their knowledge continuing on. Some become, announcers and things like that. So I still have a Patreon. I still have a lot of individuals inside of there. We have almost 40 individuals still inside my Patreon. We still answer questions, talk, and still have a community of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. So we still talk and banter, and I still answer questions. I'm also still on the Jedi Academy on Saturday mornings. So if you have questions about the game, until my knowledge fades and falters, I will still be answering questions for you on Saturday mornings when I have a chance. Now, I've got all of that. Now, this is, in fact, my last official roster review. I have gone to Patreon and removed roster review as one of the perks or benefits of signing up for Patreon. But I do still have Patreon. I do still have a YouTube channel. And of course, I am still going to be making content on YouTube. And that is going to be wide open. There's a lot of ideas and thoughts of what we're going to be doing. But for today, it is Dune Climber's Day. We're going to be doing a roster review for him. So this is going to be fun. He's doing really well. He's taken a lot of advice from me already, and really the big thing was trying to get a good chunk of characters to Gear 12 was really kind of where he was at. He had a lot of characters that weren't Gear 12, and so he had asked, should I get some of these guys to Gear 12? And the answer, of course, for sure was yes. Now, he's been basically free to play for the last 3 years. So this is a tough journey. Free to play for 3 years is tough in this game. You see a lot of characters come and go, such as Revan and Malik, and then by the time you get them, everybody else has had them for a while. Now, in regular fleet, regular arena, he's doing pretty well. You can see he doesn't have Sith Marauder, so he's doing a dueling tank. Basically, he bringing in the GBA, so he has 2 tanks and basically a 6-on-5 battle. That's an interesting composition, probably obviously not optimal because he could have the Sith Marauder in there. And then, of course, modding is going to be critical because modding is the most important thing when it comes to this. It also depends on kind of what he is facing. And then, of course, he's going to have to start to slowly get into relics, which means you're going to have to hyper-focus one character at a time until you get your Gear 12, your Gear 12 plus, and then eventually into your relics and use your Cantina energy to get them into relic tier 3 and then to tier 5. I really recommend Revan and Bastila to relic tier 3 minimum, and then HK and your Sith Marauder when you get him, because you asked, by the way, one of the things he asked in his diatribe with me was should he get Sith Marauder? And the answer was yes, he should get Sith Marauder for sure. That's kind of an in-game character for this team. So definitely he's going to want to focus that character, and that would be that. Now, what's funny about Gear 12, Gear 12 Plus, and the finisher piece is a lot of people say, well, it's so hard to get relics. It's really hard to get relics, and honestly, it's not. On my Scissorman account, I proved that over the last 4 months that it's really not that difficult. What it comes down to is literally pausing everything and saying, I'm going to get one character to relics. And so you use your ship energy, your regular energy, your cantina energy. You're looking in every store for all of this stuff. You're buying, shards that you can use for gear in the shard shop. You're doing everything you can. You're saving your crystals. You're buying, if needed, items out of the store with crystals. You're literally hyper-focusing every single thing you have into that one character. And Sith Marauder, before I retired, I got Sith Marauder from Gear 8 to almost relics in 2.5 weeks. From Gear 8 to almost relics in like 2.5 weeks. And everybody watched my progression. It was a sight to see, but that was me focusing on one character nonstop. Everything flooded in. Now, I was best case scenario because on my Scissorman account, I was getting almost 1,000 crystals a day with arenas, and that is definitely something not everybody gets. But even if you cut crystal progression in half and you had half of that, that's a month. So if you took a month to get one character from basically beginning to relics, that's still a really fast progression. So as long as you're focused on one specific character, you're going to be just fine. Everyone's saying hi, by the way, so that's good on you guys for hopping in and checking this out. I hope that, by the way, that everyone that hops in checks this out. By the way, I did notice that Arnold jumped in to kind of take the mantle from me, so I'm excited because, to be honest, nobody in the SWGOH world really cared about new players except for me. There was really no video, no content, no nothing for the new player. I was really the only thing there was, and that's not to bash anybody or be rude or be mean, but you go through YouTube, there was just nothing except for my Scissorman account. So I'm glad that since I kind of created a void or a vacuum, that he kind of plugged in and started a new account. And if there's anybody that has time to plug something into that vacuum, that was Arnold, because he does this full time and he'll do a great job, I'm sure of it. I know he's got a strategy with separatists. I'm interested to see how that plays out because the separatists are definitely difficult at the beginning. And I know this because of last year. I thought about General Grievous. Not only are relics and Gear 13 hard to attain early on, but General Grievous is just impossible early on. He takes a year, and to have a General Grievous relic Gear 13, relic tier 7 in less than a year without money, impossible. So I don't really see that as I don't see it as a viable strategy going into like that specific team, but there are separatists that I think are going to be viable. Like I said, I always suggested the Geos be your first team for ships, and then that paid off on my Scissorman account, of course, for Padme. So it depends, I guess, on which separatists you focus on. I'll be interested to see kind of where that goes. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is fleet. Fleet rank is he gets in the top 10, and his inventory for sure is, like he said, he knows Galactic Republic is, kind of the way you're supposed to go, but that's not true really, because it's all about having fun, and you can cut right through all of them with this team. Now, you are using your Houndstooth, and honestly, I don't really think that you need Houndstooth. I know what you're trying to do, which is be more defensible, but I don't really think that you need to be more defensible, because I think at the end of the day, you're gonna lose on when they're on offense. When they're on offense, they're gonna beat your fleet. You're gonna fall back. I really think that you're going to lose regardless. And so if you feel like you're dropping less of the time with Houndstooth, then maybe, but I feel like you'd be better suited with maybe like Spy. And this is why. Spy dodges, and on defense, the RNG is just going to screw your opponent and just dodge, 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 dodge. And it's going to be annoying. And of course, IG 100 is going to be going into stealth. And then Sunfax, the second tankiest tank in the game. And you're going into relics with this character. So if we click on the character or on the ship, you'll see the character. And you said that you were working on or going to work on taking Sunfac into relics. And then once you get him into relics, you're going to boost him up. And that's going to help his ship drastically. Now, one of the things you're going to have to do also once you get into relics is you're also going to want to do the mods. Now, the mods obviously are not 6E, and so you're going to want to get 6E mods on here. You want to mod them correctly just because you use them. Probably geos are now very usable. So you're going to want to make sure you have him correctly modded, and then you're going to want to slice them to 6E. I would make this a top priority because you are in the top in ships. And so ships are arguably for you actually significantly more important than regular arena. Regular arena, you're not even cresting top 100. So you're honestly going to get far more crystal income. So this is really basically your income daily in the game that's free, and you're free to play. So this is what matters. This is your arena team. So if you just basically want to think about it that way, think about a fleet as your fleet arena, as your regular arena. So you basically want to inverse your thought process. So ships are more important than regular arena. The other thing is ships, you have less to worry about. You have less to think about. The ships are their own progression, so they don't conflict with characters. And then characters for the ships. The good news is with separatists, it's lazy. There's not a whole lot of ships in separatists that have, there's a couple of them that don't even have characters. So if we go into ships and we go to separatists, really the ships are actually pretty, they built them to be kind of progressive with shipless or characters that were characterless. So they said that they've got to be able to do something down the road when the characters continue to progress, what's going to happen with the ships, and they already know that's a potential future problem. So they're going to have to do something to the ships, but they are aware of that. And for now, the ship has no character, and it is viable and considered on par with basically a relic tier 7 character, but without having to do the character. So this is like an easy pass, and you're right, it's going to be far path of least resistance. And so the Malevolence was a super smart gamble for you and a super smart move, path of least resistance. So you've got the Malevolence 5-star. It is way better at 5-star than anything else at 5-star for sure. You're going to continue to grind that, be all in on that. You've got your geos, your spy, your soldier, and Sunfac. Definitely, like you said, Sunfac goes to relics. That's going to be your number one most important relic, even over Sith Empire, okay? Sith Empire is not as important as Sunfac, and I know that sounds crazy, but this is your income in crystals, so this is really, really important. Now, Vulture Droid is free to play farmable. You know that. That's why you're farming him, so continue to farm Vulture Droid, and this should be obviously in your lineup. But you can also use droids underneath, and you know this. That's why you're using droids. So let's go to droids as well. And then you have your IG 2000. Now, part of this team does have the IG 2000, which has IG 88. So let's click on him. You have his Zeta. Very cool. One of the things you'll want to do for the ship is 6E mods on him as well. So you've maxed out the abilities, including the Zeta. So that is important. You'll want to take him to relics. This is going to help with his ship. The relics surprisingly increase the ship's damage by quite a bit. The 6E mods are going to help with the health and protection of the ship, more specifically the health of the ship and the speed of the ship. That's important. So you're going to want to increase the 6E mods. You get some speed for every 2 mods that you increase to 6E. So let's do that. Get these mods just like Sunfac. You're going to want to get these mods sliced. So I would put Sunfac and IG88 both into your favorites. I would get them into relics. I would get their relics up to at least relic tier 5 and their mods to 6E. Those are your number 1 and number 2 priorities. Make them 50-50. Like, they're equally as important. If I had to pick one over the other, I would make Sunfac more important, simply because he's the tank and he's going to be the one that just disruptively taunts and makes this difficult. This team on offense should chew through basically anything that you face in arena, and you should be able to go and get number one in arena every day and be able to get your 400 crystals. You should be able to get 100 crystals in the other arena and be able to get at least 500 crystals, plus your dailies, which is another 100, 150, which is like 650 crystals a day. It's pretty good crystal income for free to play, I'll be honest. It's really, really good. So let's go ahead and go through. You wanted about ships, so we talked about that. You asked about Sith Marauder, so we talked about that. You then said that you got a bunch of stuff to gear 12, and really what you want to know is what should you be relicking now at this point. So what we're going to do, it's going to be kind of fun since it's a live stream, we've got time. What we're going to do is we're going to go through actually faction by faction. We're going to talk about all your different factions, kind of where they're at and what I think in each faction you could be focused on, keeping in mind that you're free to play, so we don't want to give you too much to chew on. I've already given you two projects to take to relics, and that's a big deal. So that's a lot of work for free to play, but keep in mind you could probably finish both those projects in the next month if you work on them together. So let's go ahead and go into characters. Let's scroll through your roster really quick just to see kind of what you have. So it looks like you have General Grievous, Brood Alpha, cool. You've got both Revans, that's awesome. C-3PO already, that's awesome. Kenobi, great. Bosk, Rey, wow, you've got Rey, that's amazing. Padme, and you're under 4 mil, that's good. You don't want to hit 4 mil, really. You want to try and keep as lean a roster as possible. Luke, Chewbacca, R2, BB-8, great, you know. Fives, Malik, Shakti, Jolie Bindo, Bastila, Han Solo, Yoda, Anakin, Zaydid, you know, Rex Zaydid, Zalbar, Karth, Zaydid, Mission Zaydid. Man, you've got a really good looking roster. Really good. Let's see if I see anything down below where I'm, you know, okay, so separatists are I'm seeing a few separatists down here that might need a little bit of work. There'd probably be a little argument for your Nightsisters. So some more separatists, some Nightsisters, maybe some triumvirate. I see a little triumvirate down here that might, you might want to focus on. In fact, I wouldn't say might. Triumvirates definitely, even today, still super viable. Triumvirate is also a couple years old, and so for a lot of people, they think, oh, you know, they're antiquated. That is not true at all. Triumvirate work for, I mean, they kill like everything but two things, you know what I mean? Like they're still viable against 90% of what's out there, and they're really great against bugs still, and they're really great against a lot of really hard targets. And because they came out 2 years ago, they don't have a bunch of that new crappy gear that they're bringing out. You know, they got all this like new gear that they're like, hey, let's jack everybody up and put in a bunch of trash new gear and say we're trying to, you know, spread it out and not use your Carbantes. No, that's not true. They just want you to pay for new gear. But these guys didn't have all this new crap gear. So, you know, Nightsisters, we're seeing some, triumvirate. We're seeing First Order's a little weak. So Nightsisters, First Order is kind of a back burner at this point because you're really focused on other stuff. Triumvirate isn't a requirement, but definitely something I would look at. I see Imperial Troopers are low, but that's not a requirement at all. Your Sith Marauders down here, that's definitely something you want to, do. And then I noticed, Sith Trooper and Hux, they're not farmable yet. So definitely no worries on that. You've done a good job of keeping, quite a few things down at like level 1 and whatnot. So let's just go through. I'm not going to focus too much. I know you want to go for General Anakin Skywalker, and so 501st is kind of back burner, but you've got him staged at, reliced out in gear 12. So don't go any further. You don't need to go any further at this because you don't have your separatists yet. So you need your separatists, right? Okay. So we know that already. You already have these guys high enough for now. For free to play, this is more than you needed, okay? Bounty hunters, this is sufficient. I know this sounds crazy, but you don't need to put any more energy into them for a couple of reasons. Well, IG-88 is your special project, so ignore my on that. You need to do IG-88 for ships. The rest, it's fine. I use My bounty hunters just like this. And the reason for that is you've got other projects as free to play you're going to need to make a higher priority. You could always come back and throw something on bounty hunters. If you see something glowing on Boba Fett and it's not glowing on one of your projects, you could pop it on him. But my point is, don't make these guys in your favorites and make them one of the things you have to do, okay? So bounty hunters are sufficient. Clone troopers, basically they're the 501st. I understand Cody's required for in-game content. I would not make him a priority. Again, mindset, free to play. We're trying to hyper focus here. Droids are kind of a bad faction to look at when you're looking down the line because it encompasses, separatists, it encompasses rebels, it encompasses, resistance and stuff. So I don't really like to look in droids when we're going through here. Empire is one of those where, again, as free to play, you're probably sufficient. The only thing I see that you might want to crank up just a little is Thrawn. Thrawn and possibly Darth Vader. Thrawn and Darth Vader, Emperor Palpatine and Tarkin, you've got enough that you could probably have a team for offense or defense. Imperial Troopers are fun, but again, they're kind of they're not as important as your separatists are going to be. And right now, what we're trying to find is what is your number one important thing we're supposed to do. And so... But side note, someone's saying, Robert Arnold says, shouldn't I be the last review? Robert Arnold, you don't need a review because you're like the man. You know what's up. Paulie Mills says, thought you quit. I did quit, but I'm still an expert with knowledge, and this is the last roster review. And people pay me for my expertise, and I would be a jerk if I took their money and did not do their roster reviews. That would be a jerk move. And so these guys, people signed up to be patrons and get roster reviews. I released a roster review yesterday, but this is my last roster review of all my roster reviews, and I figured I'd make it on my main channel and as a live stream. I thought that would be super fun. Cal says I don't lose my knowledge in a day, right? Hey, Mikey. So again, Imperial Troopers are one of those fun little pet projects, but at this point in the game, this is not one of those things we have to put over the Separatists. So we're going to keep moving on. Ewoks, I know, are not going to need any more work because you already have your team. You have your C-3PO. So again, you've got enough Zetas, enough Gear 10 and 11 that we can skip. So we're going to skip. First Order, sadly, is done because I know you already have your Jedi Knight or you have your Jedi training Rey. So it looks great. Eventually, when Sith Trooper and Hux become farmable, you'll probably want to make those back burner projects, meaning just kind of side projects where maybe you throw one of them in your favorites and have some fun. Because these two characters, anytime they come out with a new character, like this year when they come out with a new character, those characters, once they become farmable, are probably going to change forever a faction pretty significantly. I wouldn't spend the $300 plus another $300 gearing them. I mean, $600 for a free-to-play account is just craziness, especially when it's for like First Order to make them a little more relevant. So don't do that. But... when they become farmable, General Hux is a pretty good leader, or Sith Trooper as a damage dealer isn't a bad idea. But for now, we're going to pass on First Order as well. So what I'm saying is Ewoks, First Order, Empire, droids, clone troopers, bounty hunters, 501st, you're doing well enough. We're going to say that we're passing on all of those. Now, Galactic Republic, we got to kind of take a look at for a couple of reasons. This is half of the equation for General Anakin Skywalker, which is kind of your next target. We're looking to General Anakin Skywalker. So a couple of things. Kenobi, he's staged, ready to go. You've got your finisher on Padme, so you're going to want to get Padme to Gear 13, Relics 13, or Relic 3. So you need a couple more pieces for Padme. And then, of course, the 501st is staged at 12. That's fine. I wouldn't focus any more on them for now. But you definitely want to take the rest of your Galactic Republic that you're going to need for the General Anakin Skywalker events, okay? So, because the event, you really want to take them to Relic, Gear 13, Relic 3. It really makes a huge difference in the event. And then everyone's Zetas, it's going to take some time to get there. This team, though, obviously you don't have to take everybody there, but it's advantageous to do so. It just makes the event easier. This is definitely, though, the harder of the two sides for sure, in my opinion. I think a lot of people understand that the Galactic Republic side of the event was one of those things where you could play it 100 times and it's like impossible, 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 and then just RNG lets it happen and you're like, what? I have all 5 standing and I won? What? You know, like it was like that for my brother, you know, which by the way, he's in chat. Andrew, what's up, brother? He, you know, he played it for like 2 days and just got slaughtered. And then just one of the times he played it, it was just like all 5 standing, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. It's like, what? This is so weird. So I don't know why that is. I don't know why this particular event, it's like that. So, but you definitely want to take your relics up. You're going to enjoy the Galactic Republic for the long haul. Plus, you're going to use these for territory battles, territory wars, and they're in-game content for the year of 2020. So you're getting really, really close with your Galactic Republic. Your Geonosians, you're really close as well. Finish Sunfac. He's your one project. You're almost done. Again, we talked about Imperial Troopers. Nightsisters, this is kind of a funny thing. With my Scissorman account before I quit, Nightsisters were a side pet project, and I took them to like basically Gear 10 because at Gear 10, they're really usable against things like Gear 12 and below. It's nuts. It's like at Gear 12 and below, these guys can chew through a ton of stuff as long as it's going against anything that's not like AoE heavy, and you can break them up into like 3 versus 3 really easily as well. So, you know, you're almost there in making them kind of usable, viable. So I'd probably, you know, you got to get Asajj Ventress higher for the General Anakin Skywalker event. So make her, she's definitely got to go into your favorites, okay? Old Daka, you could probably stage for now. Mother Talzin and Zombie and Spirit probably could go into your favorites if you want to take them up a little higher. Zombie has to go to Gear 10 to really make the whole situation viable with this team. So I'd put Zombie and Spirit, or Zombie and Ventress into your faves because you need Ventress for your General Anakin Skywalker, and Zombie's got to go to 10 to become viable. Talzin and Spirit, you could probably leave out of your favorites, but pay attention to them anytime a piece is glowing, drop it on them, because you really want to get them to at least Gear 9. Once they're at Gear 9 with solid defensive mods meaning like a lot of protection on Mother Talzin, and then you can add quite a bit of, for Nightsister Spirit, quite a bit of like protection and offense on Spirit. You'll find that they're at Gear 9 actually pretty defensible. That's where my free-to-play account, my Scissorman account, I left them. That's where they're currently still at, and I used them for against Gear 12 teams at Gear 9, and they worked. So just speaking from experience, you know, you want to do more, and eventually you'll find time to do more, but that's not, this again is not the highest priority. Asajj is. So again, IG-88, you know, Sunfac, got to get him up. Asajj Ventress, get her up. And then Zombie, if you're going to use Nightsisters, you that's kind of like, you just have to. So Nightsister Zombie, get her up. That's going to be a difference. Your Old Republic, I'm positive, are sufficient. That's definitely more than sufficient. Phoenix, don't worry about. That is exactly where mine are still at on my free-to-play account that I used to play. Rebels are looking pretty good. Now, a consideration, just a thought, this is just a back of your mind thought process. If you don't have individuals on your leaderboard with General Anakin Skywalker yet, then this isn't something you have to keep in mind yet. You don't have to consider. But as you start to progress up into your regular arena and you start to get into the top 100, and this is for everyone listening, okay? Is you start to get into the top 100 or the top 50 and you start to see people with General Anakin Skywalkers and you're like, oh my gosh, he's got a Relic 5 General Anakin Skywalker with the 501st. That's the time that you should get your Commander Luke, Chewbacca, and Han Solo, the trio, to Relic Tier 3 and above. Like, probably should take the 3 of them to Relic Tier 5. Then you can beat gas. You don't even need gas. You don't even have to farm for gas. If you really want to be the ultimate free-to-play farming person and you don't even want to worry about getting all of your, you know, separatists up and you like so Arnold is doing that free-to-play account, right? And he's doing like, oh, I'm going to go separatists first and I'm going to do all of that. Well, we already know that separatists are really, really, really hard. And if he goes there and then he gets his Galactic Republic next, and he gets a Separatist in Galactic Republic, and he spends the next 6 months getting them up and gets gas because he thinks it's like the fast way. Well, if you do it the old way, you can get Revan and you can get CLS in the first 6 months. And then you can get Darth Revan by month 8. I mean, I proved that. Then you'll have the counter to gas before he ever has gas. So, I mean, do you want the character, or do you want the counter to the character? So something to think about, you know what I mean? Like, which is the path of least resistance for free to play? Now, if you're a spender, you want all the teams, you want all the best, you want everything. It's just something to think about. And I don't know. I'm not saying which is right. I'm just saying my thought process on my Scissorman account was, I still had all of the 501st to do. I still had, my Nightsisters to worry about. I still had, my Darth Revan team that I was still working on. I still had my Separatists I was still working on. My Separatists I hadn't even touched. I still had a 5-star General Grievous, and I'd been farming General Grievous since the beginning. A year's worth of farming General Grievous, he was 5 stars. So, I mean, I don't really think that's a viable option, and you got to have him to get gas. So, I mean, I don't know. Anyway, it's just difficult. So, if I had a little bit more hyper focus on him, I might have got him a little sooner. But these guys, Han Solo, Chewbacca, and C-3PO. Han Solo, you can get pretty easy from the raid. Chewbacca, though, you got to get from, Bosk and his buddies. And that's a difficult event. You got to take those guys up pretty high. I did it. I have a video where everybody's at like gear 9. Except for a double Zeta Bosk at gear 12. So you got to get those guys up at least to gear 9 and above and have some RNG love. Commander Luke, pretty easy event, gear 9-ish, maybe a little lower. I think I did it at gear 8, gear 9. But Commander Luke's pretty easy to get. Han's pretty easy to get. Chewbacca, not the hardest in the world. Take this team, beat General Anakin Skywalker. So, you know what I mean? Like, path of least resistance. So when you see somebody starting to crop up with a bunch of gases, now what you can do is take these 3 people that you already have at gear 12 and put them in your favorites and just bump up 3 characters, bump these 3 characters up, and now you have a counter. And then you have a counter that you can get really quick, really easy, really fast, and then you can relax and you can take your time working on your Separatists and your Galactic Republic until the time comes as a free-to-play that you then have the characters in place to get your own General Anakin Skywalker. He'll be irrelevant by the time you get him, and that's fine because you'll have had at least a counter for the current meta. You got to have either the current meta or a counter to the current meta. That's all I'm saying. Rebels, easy current counter to the meta. You already have him. So Commander Luke R2 or Commander Luke Chewbacca Solo, you've got him. Consider looking at them, and when you start to see yourself running into gas, bump these guys into relics. For now, don't worry about it. Okay, that was a huge diatribe for nothing. Resistance. Resistance is good for now, but resistance could always eventually get more love once it's needed. C-3PO, you're going to probably want to put in more love eventually, so C-3PO is good for now. Honestly, C-3PO, I used him on my free-to-play account at gear 9. He's fine. He's amazing under geared. So is a lot of the support characters. They really are. The biggest thing about those characters, those support characters, is they need to be fast. Support characters do better the more turns they can take. And obviously the gear gives them speed, and the faster they are, the more turns they take. So that is the only real benefit. They get a little viability through the extra protection and health, but honestly, they don't really need a bunch of that. So there's resistance. You're pretty good there. Rogue One. I know you haven't focused on Rogue One, and really, if you guys aren't going to go back and do light side, TB, you probably don't need them, and you're not focused enough on the old Rebels ship. You're kind of beyond that Rebels ship composition to worry about it. So I'm not going to say go backwards now at this point, and in Scoundrels. So we're going to go to Separatists last, okay? So let's go ahead and look at Sith Empire. Your Sith Empire looks pretty good. I did say Sith Marauder. So let's review. You've got Sunfac in your favorites now. You've got your IG-88 in your favorites now. You've got Asajj Ventress in your favorites now. I do recommend you at least get the tank zombie in your favorites. Get her to gear 10 at least at a minimum, okay? And then Sith Marauder's your number 5. Get him into your favorites. Farm him up. He's in Cantina. He should go pretty quick. He is going to compete with your relics though. So, farm him until you get somebody into gear 13. As soon as you get someone into gear 13, pause his farm, get their relics up to like relic 3, and then go back to him until you get someone else popped over to gear 13, and then pause him, go back, get their relics to 3, and then go back and finish his farm. Kind of go back and forth. But Sith Marauder, definitely worthy of farming and gearing. His gear isn't atrocious. I did his gearing, like I said, over the last 2.5 months. Wasn't horrible. It's not awesome, but it's also not terrible. His gear's far enough back that it doesn't have all those like brand new terrible pieces that they've added to the game. Sith Empire looks pretty good where it's at. You will eventually want to relic out this team. It's one of the top 3 teams in the game, hands down. Definitely. So Revan, Malak, Basti, HK, Sith Marauder, top 4 plus Sith Marauder. That's the team. If you have the mods to basically have your Revan go first or have your Basti go first, then you're good. If you don't, then you're going to want to sub in Sith Empire Trooper instead of the Marauder, because he's going to absorb the fastest Revan and basically help with that faster Revan. But you, bottom line, are going to want either the fastest Revan or the fastest Fallen. So that's going to be kind of where you're at. You're either going to have the fastest Fallen and use Trooper, or you want to have the fastest Revan. If you can't have either, it sucks. So it is what it is. You can still win even if you're not the fastest because you have Malak and have Trooper in there. But Marauder, really, really the power differential when you get him up there, especially in relics, he's going to start one-shotting fools, and that really changes the tide with this team. So keep these guys in your mind. Basically, Sith Empire and your Galactic Republic are your Gear 12 to relic priorities. There's a lot, right? There's a lot of Sith Empire and a lot of Galactic Republic that you're looking at to Gear 12 and to Relic. But those 2 factions are kind of the 2 factions that you need to be kind of looking at and focused on. Really quick, let's look at questions. There's a couple of really quick questions. Zeta, do you think it's better to Zeta Kenobi or Anakin? Probably Kenobi. I would say Kenobi's got the slight edge, but they're both really good. And David said you don't need Grievous to get gas. That's true, but Grievous is really that missing piece for the Separatist teams. So the fact that this is your last roster review, or the fact that I arrived on time to watch it, Leopold. Oh, the fact that this guy's my shardmate, or the fact that I previously clashed with him for payouts. Oh, that's crazy. Warrior, what was the tune that you liked a lot but didn't farm? Okay. For you, it was Visas Mar. I like a lot of characters I didn't farm, you know what I mean? So it's just one of those things. Okay. And then last was Sith before Separatists. The last thing you mentioned was, should you focus on the triumvirate Traya, Scion, and Nihilus? Traya, Scion, and Nihilus. For me, I would stick those 3 into your favorites. So you have 5 in your favorites right now that I've mentioned, and Nihilus, Traya, and Scion would go in. Now, they're going to go into your favorites, but they're not going to be a high priority in your favorites. What that means is they're going to sit in there so you remember them, but they're not going to be, when something's glowing, they're glowing, and someone else is glowing with gear, the other character in favorites that's glowing is going to be what you put it on. But when something's glowing on just them, then they'll get it. Okay, so you're going to prioritize them, but only when they're not conflicting with something else in favorites, because you do want to get them up, but you don't want to get them up at the expense of the other characters that are in favorites. These characters, the triumvirate, even once you hit like gear 9, become very, very powerful as a unit and can take a lot of teams out, especially in 3 versus 3, 5 versus 5. They're going to expand your Sith and Sith Empire teams. They're going to help with like your Empire, because your Empire is real weak. So you've got like, you've got Thrawn, and you've got, Emperor Palpatine, but that's like basically it for Empire. And so you don't have a whole lot of Empire. And so this is going to kind of help expand your Sith slash Empire to kind of give you a couple more characters. So you're going to have a little broader, scope of teams and viability and stuff. So to just write off them, especially with them all 7 stars. I mean, Scion, Traya, Nihilus, all 7 stars. That was a lot of work to farm them to 7 stars, gear 8, and then stop is kind of a shame. So I'd put them in, but I'd make them kind of that behind the curtain, thought process, if something's glowing, but it's not. I mean, you even have 2 stun guns on Traya. That's crazy. Stun guns are like the worst. The rest of her gear in gear 8 isn't that bad. So, put her in there. You'll be surprised. Same thing with Nihilus. You have a gun and 2 Mark IIIs. Nuts. So you'd be surprised once you put them in your favorites, how many things start glowing. Or if you click on an item, you'll be like, wow, that's not that difficult to get. And then you might be surprised at how many things you can pick up and get. So what you've got are 8 items now, 8 characters inside of your favorites. That's just a little over that row. So your number one priority outside of those characters I've given you is going to become separatists. Now, a couple of the characters I just gave you was Asajj Ventress and Sunfac, right? Those were a couple of the characters that I gave you. The rest are going to be separatists. We're going to talk about that. Your B1, of course, your B2, Droideka, Count Dooku, and Newt Gunray. Jango Fett's an awesome project, but you can leave him to the wayside for now, being free to play. But really that second row, your B1, your Asajj, your B2, your Droideka, Count Dooku, and then Newt Gunray. If you were just to swap Newt and Poggle, you basically have a row of 6. And of course, like I said, Asajj and Sunfac have already been talked about. So you basically have a couple rows you're going to have in your favorites. Some of them need to be relicked. Some are gear 12 that just need to be finished off. There's some that are at gear 6 and 7 that need, gear 6 and 7. There's some that are at gear 10 that need to go to like 11 and 12. There are some at, low gear, mid gear, high. There are some of these characters that need Zeta, like Count Dooku and Droideka. So you're going to need some Zetas applied. So you're at different levels of progression across all of your favorites. You've got some that are active, like your B2 Battle Droid and Droideka. You're going to want to gear. But you've got some that are passive, like your Triumvirate, that you'll put gear on when they're not conflicting with your others. B1 Battle Droid, you're definitely going to want to take to relics. And you said, let me look, because you said you wanted to relic B1. Yes, I would say B1 take to relic tier 5. Okay. He's your damage dealer. Droideka, at least relic 3. That would be my suggestion. B2, if you could take him to relic tier 3, that would be awesome. You also wanted to relic Ahsoka, GK, and Padme. That would be a great 3 from your Galactic Republic. That would be awesome. And then beyond that, I would probably relic your Count Dooku and Asajj. Asajj to relic 3, Count Dooku to relic 3. New Gunray you could take probably to gear 12 for now as a staging point. All in all, though, you're doing amazing with all the progression I just gave you. Every single thing I told you to do, those 2 rows, take them all up, get those relics done, get those Zetas done, get the characters to gear 12 stage like I suggested. You're going to add maybe 100,000 more. You're going to be around 3.85 to 3.9 million. You'll still be under that 4 million, and you're going to be primo. Your Galactic Republic will be higher. Your Separatists will be better. You're going to be ready for General Anakin Skywalker. You're going to have, better Sith and Sith Empire. And then, like I said, your backburners, you're going to kind of be looking at, possibly relicking eventually a few more of your Galactic Republic and eventually your Sith Empire. The relics, getting all those characters from Gear 12, the Sith Empire and Galactic Republic to Gear 13, it is difficult. I will give you that. But the secret is it's just one character at a time. Just look at a character like Sunfac and just say, I just need that next piece. I just need that next piece. And you'll be surprised. You'll be like, well, this item is my ship energy. And this item is my regular energy. And just spend the next 3 days using all your ship energy on this and all your regular energy on that. And you'll have the piece in like 2 or 3 days. And you'll be like, dang, that was easy. And then next week, by the week's end, you'll have like 4 pieces done. And you'll be like, wow, I'm almost done. I almost got this guy to relics in 1 week, like what the heck? And you're like, oh my gosh, this is way easier. I didn't realize how easy this was. You'll be surprised. If you're looking for the piece, you'll see stores that have, 5 of this piece and 4 of that piece. And you're like, wow, I didn't realize how easy this was when you're looking. So just pay attention and you'll find it. You're doing a really good job, honestly, for free to play 3 years. Everything is looking phenomenal. I'm just really proud of where you've come. It's been really fun. I love the game, you guys. It was really bittersweet to leave the game, to not be a participant of the game anymore, because honestly, the game had my heart for, 4 years. I love Star Wars. This is the best Star Wars game on the market. It's just a bunch of things, it's the time commitment. It's the way it's being ran. It's the, like I said, I have a video I've talked about before. I've got my Facebook post. I've got the Reddit post. There's a lot of things. There's a totality of the circumstances, and there's always a time when people have to decide for themselves when it's time and when it's time to hang things up. And for me, this chapter has closed, sadly, but for me, I'm not sad about it. I'm happy about it because I'm moving to the next chapter of my life. I am happy I was able to do this last roster review on a live stream. I think that was super fun and an honor to do this for Dune Climber. He was, waited for a while for his roster review. So how cool was this that I got to do this for him on this last roster review? So they say they're going to do, boatloads and boatloads of new content and all of that. At a time when there hasn't been any new content for months, except for like 3 new characters that you can buy. And I don't see new characters. They say they're going to release a bunch of new characters. Every new character they've released in the last few years is you have to buy it. And then you have to wait 3 to 6 months to farm it free to play. I don't really see myself wanting to spend money in the game anymore. My free to play account was fun, but it's a time commitment. I don't want to keep my warrior account up floating while I do a free to play account, time commitment wise. Like I said, there's just too many things. I'm not going to rehash all of this. I've rehashed it too many times over. I'm excited to continue doing YouTube. I'm excited to have socialization with you guys and continue doing videos. If you guys haven't seen my video from yesterday, I had a super fun time with Sure Shot. A lot of people had positive responses with that video. That was a good time. We're going to do other videos as well. So we're going to continue to have fun. You guys, if you're having fun with this game, keep playing. If you guys love the game, keep doing what you're doing. And anyway, thanks for joining me. If you guys have any ideas for Dune Climber on his roster, if you thought that I missed anything, make sure you leave them in the comments down below. And as always, you guys who are playing this game, you keep your gaming on. Warrior out.